It was a regular Tuesday afternoon when Darren walked into the jewelry store wearing a plain black hoodie, slightly faded jeans, and a calm expression. No watch, no flashy shoes, no security around him, just a quiet presence. The kind that doesn't scream money or power, but carries both. He strolled in with his hands in his pockets, nodding politely at a few people browsing around. To anyone watching, he looked like someone who might just be passing time or maybe thinking about buying a low-tier item, if that. From behind the front counter, the manager glanced up from her phone. She scanned him from head to toe once, then looked back down like he wasn't even worth the full look. He walked slowly toward the display case, pausing in front of a section lined with limited edition pieces, a set of handcrafted watches, ones that couldn't be bought just anywhere. When he leaned in closer, the manager snapped her fingers. "Sir, please step away from that case," she said without making eye contact. "That section's for serious buyers only." Darren raised an eyebrow, not out of surprise, but at the tone in her voice. "Serious buyers?" She sighed, still not looking up. "Yes, those items are extremely high-end. If you're just browsing, we have a clearance section in the back. Or you can come back with someone who's actually shopping." He gave a small smile, the kind you give when you've heard something not just offensive, but so boldly assumptive it almost doesn't register. Still, he didn't respond right away. Instead, he turned his attention back to the watch in the case, a deep navy face with platinum trim, retailing at over $60,000. The manager finally looked up fully now. She walked over, placing herself directly between him and the glass. "I'm serious. If you don't have a reason to be here, you need to leave." Darren turned to her slowly. "And what reason would that be?" Her tone hardened. "A budget, a reservation, money. Something that tells me you're not wasting my time." A few people around them started noticing the tension. A young couple nearby stepped aside, whispering something as they glanced between the two. That's when she crossed the line. "You people are always walking in like this, wasting time, asking about things you know you can't afford. Now either you leave, or I'll call security." That part, the "you people," wasn't lost on anyone. One customer even gasped softly. Darren nodded once, pulled his phone out of his pocket and tapped the screen. The manager rolled her eyes. "Calling for backup? Good luck." He didn't respond. He simply said, "Stay close. You'll want to be here when this gets handled." She chuckled, arms folded. "Handled? Please, I handle this store." Darren didn't argue. He didn't defend himself. He didn't raise his voice or threaten. He just stood there silently while the seconds ticked by. Exactly 7 minutes later, the store's assistant regional director burst through the doors, almost out of breath. Behind him were two men in suits, legal team members, and one of the company's top HR executives. The manager's smug expression cracked the moment she saw them. She straightened her posture, suddenly alert. "What's going on?" she asked. The assistant director looked straight at Darren. "Sir, we're so sorry. We came as fast as we could." She blinked in confusion. "Wait, why are you apologizing to him?" That's when Darren finally spoke again. "Because I own this place," he said calmly. "Every inch of it." The silence that followed felt heavy, the kind of silence that swallows every last excuse before it even leaves your lips. "You... what?" she said, her voice suddenly quieter. He looked at her now, directly. "You profiled me. You judged me based on what I was wearing, how I walked in. You dismissed me, disrespected me, and you embarrassed this brand." She stammered. "I didn't know. No one told me." How was I supposed to know? You weren't supposed to know. You were supposed to do your job, he cut in. Treat people with respect, not scan their clothes to decide if they're worth your time. The assistant director motioned to the HR team, and they walked up beside her. This is a formal dismissal, one of them said. You're relieved of your position effective immediately. You'll be escorted to collect your belongings. She started protesting. But I've been here for 6 years. I'm the best sales lead you have. This isn't fair. Darren didn't flinch. If 6 years in this store taught you to treat people like that, then every single day of those 6 years was wasted. And just like that, she was walked out of the store. No scene, no yelling, just stunned silence. A few customers clapped quietly, others stared with wide eyes, but nobody said a word to defend her. Once she was gone, Darren looked at the couple from earlier, the ones who had backed away. He gave them a warm smile and said, "Let me show you something. This watch here, crafted in Geneva, only 7 in the world. Let me tell you the story behind it." The atmosphere shifted instantly. The remaining staff looked both relieved and humbled. Customers leaned in, paying more attention now than ever. Because in just a few minutes, everyone in that store had learned a lesson they wouldn't forget. And it wasn't just about jewelry. The moment the manager was escorted out of the building, the entire store atmosphere shifted. The tension in the air didn't disappear immediately. It lingered. People were still trying to process what just happened. A few looked guilty for not stepping in. Others were just stunned that the man they had silently judged turned out to be the owner. Darren didn't bask in the moment. He wasn't there to make a scene or enjoy someone's downfall. He turned his attention back to what truly mattered, restoring integrity in his store. He calmly approached the assistant director. "I want every employee present for a short meeting. Right now. No exceptions." The assistant director nodded and began notifying the rest of the staff. Within minutes, the sales associates, inventory handlers, and even the store janitor gathered quietly near the front of the store. No one dared speak. All eyes were on Darren. He stood there without a clipboard, without notes, just presence. "I built this brand from the ground up," he said, "and not with handouts or favors. I worked the overnight shifts. I saved every dime. I went years without vacations while everyone else was on social media posting theirs. I opened my first store in a strip mall where the ceiling leaked when it rained. And every time I walked into a room back then, people looked at me the way some of you did today." He paused, letting those words settle. "I didn't work all those years to own stores where people are judged before they speak, where someone can be turned away because of their skin or their hoodie, or the fact that they didn't come in holding a platinum card." No one moved. No one blinked. One of the newer employees, barely out of high school, shifted awkwardly in the back. Darren caught it. "What's your name?" he asked, pointing gently. Devon," the young man stuttered. "How long have you worked here?" 2 months, sir." "Did you see what happened earlier?" Devon nodded. "Yes, sir." "And what were you thinking while it happened?" Devon swallowed hard. "I was embarrassed. She didn't even give you a chance." Darren nodded slowly. "And you didn't step in?" Devon's eyes dropped to the floor. "No, sir." "That's okay," Darren said, his tone softening. "Because stepping in isn't always easy. But learning from it, that's where the power is. And today, you got a lesson most people don't get until it's too late." He turned to the rest of the staff. "I'm not mad at anyone here. But from this day forward, this store will represent everything we claim to be in our advertisements. Luxury without prejudice. Class without arrogance. Service without judgment. A few people nodded quietly. One woman in her mid-30s raised her hand slightly. "Yes?" Darren asked. "I just wanted to say, I'm really sorry for not speaking up earlier. I felt it was wrong, but I froze, and I won't let that happen again." Darren gave her a respectful nod. "That's all I ask." Then he turned to the assistant director. "We'll be conducting a store-wide inclusion and service training, not the kind you check off on a worksheet and forget, a real one. I'll be leading it personally. This brand can grow, but only if the people in it grow too." With that, he ended the meeting. The staff quietly returned to their duties, though many of them had a lot more on their minds than just restocking or assisting customers. Meanwhile, word had already started spreading. A customer who had been inside during the incident posted a video recap online, her voice shaking as she described what she witnessed. The video went viral in less than an hour. Thousands of views turned into hundreds of thousands. Comments flooded in, praising Darren's calm, classy response. Others were furious at how he had been treated. Some even admitted to having had similar experiences in luxury stores. By the end of the day, news outlets had picked it up. "Black CEO teaches jewelry store a lesson in grace and justice" was just one of the headlines making the rounds. But while the internet buzzed with commentary, Darren remained focused on his goal, ensuring this wasn't just a trending topic, but a turning point. Later that evening, Darren sat in his office located just above the flagship store. He opened an email from one of the regional HR directors, a resignation letter from the same manager who had been fired. It was full of excuses, claiming stress, miscommunication, and misinterpretation of intent. There was no real apology, no ownership of her actions. He closed the email without replying. Then came a knock at his door. It was Marlene, the store's longest-standing employee, an older woman in her 50s who'd been with the company since its earliest years. "Can I speak with you for a minute?" she asked gently. "Of course." She sat across from him and took a deep breath. "I just wanted to tell you something, and it might be a bit personal." "Go ahead," Darren said, leaning forward. "I've seen you grow this company from the very beginning," she said. "I remember when you couldn't even afford a real display case and had to use borrowed lights to make the jewelry shine. I've seen the sacrifices you made. I've seen the disrespect you endured, and I always wondered how you managed to stay so calm." She paused before continuing. "Today, watching you handle that situation, it reminded me why I stayed all these years, not because of the paycheck, but because this brand stands for something. And so do you." Darren smiled but said nothing. Marlene stood up. "Just know, some of us saw you even when others didn't, and we've got your back." She left his office without another word. That night, Darren stared out his window, watching people pass by the glowing storefront below. Some paused to read the headline on the signboard. "New era begins, where every guest is a VIP." He didn't need validation. He didn't need revenge. What he needed was already happening. A culture shift, a wake-up call, a standard reset. One that had started with just 7 minutes. The following morning, before the store opened, Darren arrived early. The streets were still quiet, and the air had that fresh, early morning crispness. He liked starting his day this way, before the buzz of traffic, before meetings, before distractions. It gave him time to center himself. Inside the store, the assistant director was already reviewing inventory. She looked up, surprised to see him. "Good morning, Mr. Rivers." "Morning. Just wanted to walk the floor a bit." She nodded and continued her work. Darren moved slowly through the aisles, inspecting the cases, the lighting, even the new digital display by the entrance. Everything looked flawless on the surface, but he was thinking beyond aesthetics now. After a few minutes, he made his way to the back office and pulled out a stack of applications. His assistant had left them there, resumes from aspiring managers. He didn't want just someone to fill the position. He wanted someone who understood more than products and price tags. Someone who knew people. As he sorted through the papers, his phone buzzed. It was a message from his longtime friend and business partner, Kelly, who handled expansion operations. Just saw the video. Man, that was powerful. Media's reaching out. You sure you want to stay quiet about it? Darren stared at the message for a second, then typed back, yes. Let the message speak louder than my face. He wasn't interested in interviews or viral moments. What happened yesterday wasn't a performance. It was personal. But the story wasn't done. By mid-morning, the store opened its doors. To everyone's surprise, a line had formed outside. Some people came in because they'd seen the video and were inspired. Others admitted they'd never heard of the brand before but wanted to support it now. Inside, the staff worked differently, not because they were afraid, but because something had shifted. The energy was more intentional. Greetings were warmer. Eyes made contact. There was more listening, less assumption. Darren stood by a side pillar, watching discreetly. He didn't need to micromanage, he just observed. That's when he noticed her. A woman in her late 40s, dressed in plain business attire, walked in carrying a modest tote bag. Her hair was neatly pulled back. She looked around, eyes scanning the display cases, clearly a bit unsure of herself. None of the staff approached her at first. Not out of malice, but hesitation. Until Devon, the new hire from yesterday, noticed and walked over. Good morning, ma'am. Can I help you find something today? She hesitated. Actually, yes. My daughter's graduating next week. I wanted to get her something special, but I've never shopped somewhere like this before. Devon smiled. I'd be happy to help. What's she like? The woman relaxed. She loves art. She's always sketching or painting something. Devon lit up. We just got in this charm bracelet with paintbrush and palette charms. Let me show you. Darren stood from afar, smiling. That right there was the shift he'd wanted. Real connection, no judgment, just listening. After a few minutes, the woman left the store with a beautifully wrapped box and a smile that said it all. She didn't even glance at the cameras. She wasn't there for the headlines. Just a mother celebrating her daughter. Later that afternoon, Darren got an unexpected visitor. His mentor from his early business days, Mr. Beasley. A retired investor with decades of experience, Beasley had seen it all. Success, failure, and everything in between. He walked in wearing his usual navy blazer and sharp gaze. I saw the footage, Beasley said as Darren welcomed him into the office. Thought you might. Handled yourself well, proud of you, but I didn't come here to pat your back. I came to remind you, this won't be the last time you're tested. Darren sat back. I know. Beasley leaned forward. It's not about that manager. It's about what happens next. Everyone's watching. Your staff, your partners, your competitors. You raise the bar now. You can't let it slip. I'm already making plans, Darren assured him. Training, new leadership criteria, culture accountability. Good. Keep pushing that. But don't forget to protect your peace. This kind of battle isn't just professional. It gets in your bones. Beasley stood up and placed a hand on Darren's shoulder. Your legacy isn't built in the spotlight. It's built in the quiet choices you make after the lights fade. And just like that, he left. The week continued, and Darren followed through on every word. He initiated the company-wide inclusivity audit, partnered with consultants who specialized in building empathetic leadership, scheduled one-on-one sessions with each store's team leads. But he didn't stop there. He began reaching out to community colleges and local high schools, launching a new mentorship initiative, Path to Retail Leadership, designed to bring underrepresented youth into the world of high-end business, showing them not just how to work in the space, but how to own it. The first school he visited had students who'd never stepped foot inside a luxury store. Many came from single-parent homes, just like Darren once did. He walked into the classroom, and instead of a speech, he wrote 3 words on the board: "You belong here." That became the slogan of the entire mentorship campaign. When he shared it with his team, Marlene teared up. "That's it," she said softly. "That's what people need to hear." While the internet slowly moved on to the next trending topic, the impact of that moment at the store didn't fade within the company. It planted roots. Sales increased, but that wasn't the focus. Customer reviews began reflecting a new kind of praise, not just for the products, but for the service, for the way people felt seen and heard. One evening, as Darren walked past the new flagship display case, he paused to look at a necklace that had just been released. It was elegant, minimal, and carved with a single word: legacy. Not just a product name, it was a reflection. He knew the story people had latched onto. Black CEO embarrasses racist manager. That's what made headlines. But he knew the real story was deeper. This wasn't about revenge. This was about responsibility. About what you do when power's in your hands. About not letting someone else's bias define your value. About rewriting the way success looks and feels for those who were always told they didn't belong. Weeks passed. The buzz around the viral video had quieted, but the transformation it sparked was still unfolding. Darren didn't want temporary noise. He wanted permanent change. The mentorship program he launched, Path to Retail Leadership, was already accepting its first round of applicants. Young people from all backgrounds, some fresh out of high school, others trying to restart their lives after setbacks, were being trained, mentored, and offered internships at various stores within his company. One afternoon, during a team meeting at the headquarters, Darren introduced the interns to the staff. The energy in the room was electric. Some employees looked surprised. Others stood and clapped as each intern introduced themselves. These weren't just new hires. They were symbols of progress. Darren stood at the front and addressed his staff. "I know not everyone in this room came from privilege. Some of us had to fight to even get a chance at the table. I want this company to be more than just profitable. I want it to open doors. That starts here. Today." The room fell silent, but it wasn't awkward. It was thoughtful. He could see the message landing. Meanwhile, the former store manager, the one who had made the mistake that triggered all of this, hadn't disappeared from Darren's mind. Firing him had been necessary. But Darren didn't believe in holding on to bitterness. One morning, he got a letter forwarded to him from HR. It was handwritten. "I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that being fired forced me to face parts of myself I never questioned. I've started therapy. I've been volunteering at a local youth program. I don't blame you for anything that happened. I only blame myself. But thank you for not dragging me through the mud." Thank you for handling it with more grace than I showed you that day. I won't forget that. Darren read the letter twice, then he folded it neatly and put it in his drawer. He never replied, not because he was cold, but because some lessons don't need closure. They just need change. A few months later, a national business magazine reached out. They wanted to feature his company in their issue on leaders reshaping corporate culture. Darren agreed, but with one condition. The feature had to focus on the team and the mentorship program, not just him. On the day of the interview, the journalist was shocked to walk into a conference room filled with people. Not just executives, but interns, floor associates, and community partners. One of the interns, a young woman named Kayla, spoke up during the interview. I used to walk by this store every day and feel like I didn't belong. Now I walk in and feel like I matter. That means more than any paycheck. Her words were quoted in bold on the front page of the feature. As the holiday season approached, Darren made a quiet decision. He returned to the same store where everything began. But this time, he didn't wear a hoodie. He didn't test the staff. He didn't make a scene. He simply walked in like any other customer. And something incredible happened. He was greeted at the door with a warm smile by a young employee who said, "Welcome in. Let me know if I can help you find anything." The greeting wasn't forced. It wasn't a performance. It was natural. As he walked around the store, he noticed the small things that had changed. Subtle but powerful. The display that once only showed classic high-value items now featured diverse designs made by up-and-coming artisans from the mentorship program. One case even included a small plaque that read, "Crafted by our future, designed by those who were once told they didn't belong." That line hit him hard. He walked over to the register, where a young man was ringing up a couple. The employee finished the transaction, thanked the customers, then looked up and saw Darren. His eyes widened just a little, not in fear or nervousness, but recognition. "You're him," he said quietly. "You're the reason I'm here. I was in the second group of interns." Darren nodded with a small smile. "You earned your spot. I just made sure the door was unlocked." The young man grinned. Still, thank you. Darren didn't say anything else. He left the store, not needing anything, not jewelry, not applause, not acknowledgement. He walked out with something far more valuable: peace. Back at his office, as he prepared for the new year, he looked at the company dashboard. Sales were up, yes, engagement was high. But the number that mattered most to him wasn't financial. It was the number of mentorship graduates who had taken leadership positions. 32. And counting. He closed his laptop and looked out the window. The city buzzed below him, filled with stories unfolding every second. Stories like his. Stories that needed a chance to be heard. And maybe, just maybe, that's what legacy really was. Not the wealth, not the titles, not even the viral moments, but the lives you change quietly, when nobody's watching.